Hello, and welcome to Blessing Minds. Kindly like, share, and subscribe our channel.
Welcome to this explainer. Look, if you are absolutely exhausted by that superficial hustle culture, forcing yourself up at 5 a.m. to take a freezing cold shower, only to go about your day feeling exactly the same, well, you are definitely in the right place. Today, we're unpacking a really fascinating piece of source material called Architecting the Self, and we're going to dive into 15 real, genuinely actionable steps to fundamentally reclaim your life.
Right out of the gate, the source material hits us with this incredibly uncomfortable question. Is the life you're living actually yours? Or are you living someone else's expectations, someone else's timeline, or maybe just society's generic definition of success? For a lot of us, the honest, quiet answer is no. A lot of people are out there unknowingly executing a life script that was completely written by someone else.
And honestly, this right here is exactly why most modern self-help completely misses the mark. The industry loves to feed you rituals without giving you any deep reasons. It basically tells you to just go through the motions. But here's the catch. When you follow a ritual without a foundational personal reason for making that change, it's going to fail. And when it inevitably does, you're left feeling even more broken and discouraged than when you started. We have to shift from blindly following rituals to actually understanding our reasons.
So to make these 15 intensive steps manageable, I've organized this explainer into a 5-part roadmap. We'll start with the problem with self-help, then fixing your internal foundation, curating your external environment, executing the practical plan, and finally achieving true life alignment.
Okay, part 1. The problem with self-help. Let's take a hard look at the absolute baseline of where you are right now.
So the absolute crucial point the source makes for step 1 is that you have got to crack what they call the lie. The lie is this false, super comfortable narrative you just keep telling yourself. It sounds like, oh, I'll start when the time is right. Or, I just need to research this a little bit more first. Those statements feel like wisdom, right? But actually, scratch that. They're just armor. They are actively protecting you from the risk of trying and failing again. Until you expose this foundational excuse, literally none of the other steps we're talking about today are going to land.
Moving on to part 2, fixing your internal foundation. This is all about setting the physical and mental baseline for real change.
Step 2 focuses purely on your nervous system. Now these might sound basic, but they are absolutely vital. Number 1, exhaust the body daily. You need to physically move until you are genuinely tired. Number 2, feed your body real food, mostly things pulled straight from the ground. And number 3, you have to protect your sleep like it's a non-negotiable doctor's appointment. The source actually notes that sleep deprivation literally mimics the cognitive impairment of being drunk. You need these 3 things working in sync just to achieve basic, bare-bones mental clarity.
To put that into perspective, just think of your body as the hardware of a computer. You would never try to run next-gen, high-performance software on a totally busted laptop, right? It's the same with you. Before you can expect any fancy new motivational software to work, you absolutely must fix your biological hardware first. It is the prerequisite to everything else.
Staying on this internal foundation, we're pulling forward step 8, which tackles how your mind is wired. You have to vividly envision your new life, and the science on this is just fascinating. Your brain actually struggles to tell the difference between a vividly imagined experience and a real physical one. By detailing the exact life you want and mentally rehearsing those behaviors today, you are essentially tricking your brain. You're giving it a concrete neural direction rather than just a fuzzy fantasy.
That brings us to part 3, curating your external environment. It is time to ruthlessly manage the outside inputs that are secretly draining your energy. Jumping right into step 3. The source challenges you to do a 72-hour screen time audit. If you do this, you will likely find a massive chunk of your time is just being extracted by meaningless, dopamine-heavy social media, rather than genuine restorative rest or actual productive action. This meaningless content traps you in a vicious loop of comparison and craving. You have to pull back from all this digital noise if you ever want to actually hear your own inner voice again.
Then, step 4 asks you to do something that's honestly pretty tough. You need to tell your social circle that you are unavailable. And listen, do not feel guilty about this. Real transformation requires immense energy. Old social dynamics, even the really well-meaning ones, will just drain that energy right out of you. Unconsciously, the people closest to you often want you to stay exactly the same because your growth actually challenges them. You have to fiercely protect your season of growth.
Now, as you step away from those old environments, Step 11 advises you to start putting yourself in new rooms. But here is the crucial part. Never,
ever introduce the old you. When you walk into a new room full of builders and learners, don't anchor yourself to your past stories of being stuck or failing. You show up as the new you, the version of you that already belongs there. New rooms create new mirrors, and those mirrors pull you forward.
Step 12 is all about finding a guide, and it specifically breaks down 3 completely different functions you need. A mentor is someone who has literally walked the exact path you want to take. A coach is there to hold you relentlessly accountable to your goals. And a therapist helps you unpack that invisible ceiling of your own self-sabotage. They each serve totally different but essential functions. Look, nobody does this entire journey completely alone. Finding the right guide is the ultimate cheat code to cutting your learning curve down by years.
All right, part 4, executing the practical plan. This is where high-level strategy finally meets on-the-ground action.
Step 5 gets incredibly practical. It actively warns against that highly romanticized mistake of leaping into a dream too soon and just going totally broke. Don't do it. Instead, you must methodically build a financial runway. Keep your current income, cut your expenses aggressively, build up a 3 to 6 month financial buffer, and then learn and build your new life in your spare time. That financial buffer isn't playing it safe for being lazy. It's freedom. It lets you make decisions based on strategy rather than sheer desperation.
Step 7 confronts a really hard truth with this amazing quote. Perfectionism is procrastination wearing a suit. We all love to use our impossibly high standards as an excuse to hide our deep fear of starting. I mean, it looks super responsible to the outside world, right? But it's really just a fear that putting ourselves out there will confirm our absolute worst beliefs about ourselves.
Also wrapped up in Step 7, the source reminds us of this. Every master was once a disaster. The only real way to close the gap between where you are right now and where you want to be is by actively, willingly embracing bad work in private. You just need reps. You need to write the bad post, record the bad audio, and build the messy prototype. You build a muscle by doing. Volume first, and quality will naturally follow.
Now, step 9 is where things get genuinely urgent. See, the human brain is literally wired to conserve energy. So if you set a goal without a real consequence, your brain will automatically default to the path of least resistance. You have to pick one single target, set a hard, immovable 6-month deadline, reverse engineer that target into daily, bite-sized goals, and then treat hitting those daily goals with a life-or-death level of commitment. Because at the end of the day, commitment is really just urgency applied consistently over time.
Step 10 reveals a massive psychological trap. Announcing intentions versus showing outcomes. Basically, keep your plans quiet. Research shows that when you go public with your grand intentions, it gives your brain this cheap social dopamine hit. It tricks you into feeling a sense of achievement before you've actually done a single ounce of work, which actively reduces your drive to get it done. So, work in silence and let your outcomes do the talking.
Finally, we've made it to part 5, achieving true life alignment. This is the most profound phase of the roadmap, where we navigate the actual emotional cost of all this change.
Steps 13, 14, and 15 demand a very high emotional toll. You literally have to cut ties with old habits and sometimes even old people. You have to genuinely make peace with the time and relationships you lost along the way, and do it without holding on to resentment. And finally, you have to live entirely on your own terms. That means knowing exactly what you value and completely stopping apologizing for building a life that reflects it.
Because here is the harsh, unavoidable truth. The old life and the new life cannot coexist. You simply cannot run into a brand new future while desperately keeping one foot comfortably anchored in your past. Realizing this and accepting the painful scars of the journey is an act of total, unshakable commitment to the person you are becoming.
And we conclude this explainer with the source's incredible bonus step, which really underpins everything we've talked about today. Have you decided you are worth the effort? Because look, underneath all the clever strategies, the strict sleep schedules, and the 6-month deadlines, if you don't genuinely, deep down, believe you deserve the incredible life you're trying to build, you will inevitably find a way to self-sabotage the whole shebang. So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. Are you finally ready to decide that your one, irreplaceable life is actually worth fighting for, starting right now?